What's going on, everybody? Today, this is Chris from Ninja Racing. Today I am unloading the race car to pull it into the shop. Gonna get it on the frame rack today. Had a little bit of a wreck at Nashville for the Forge Compact Touring Series race in October. Wrecked it on the second lap of practice. It is what it is. But we're going to get it in here and on the frame rack to fix it today. So we got it unloaded, got it in here on the frame rack. Had a couple of the guys I work with help me push it up here. So here we're gonna jack it up. We got a little air jack that helps a ton. You'll air it up on the car, lift it up, get it up where you can get the frame pinch weld clamps up underneath the pinch weld. And on these Hondas and Acuras, a lot of them have like slanted sideways pinch welds, so you actually just clamp it to the jacking point unless you have the special Honda pinch weld clamps, which we do not. Even most of the Honda dealers don't even have them because they only did it for a few years. It was kind of senseless to have it, but letting the car down and gonna get it into the jacking point, and then impact those clamps tight on those jacking points. Once again, that's like basically one of the strongest points of the car. I think that's the strongest point technically, but can't clamp to those. So we're gonna impact it in tight, front and back. I already did the driver's side in this clip. And then from there, you have to get the front wheels off. That way you have clean and clear access to see the frame rails all the way back. Have access to pull the suspension loose, which I do. I didn't record it, but I pulled the upper control arms loose to get them out of the strut tower. That way I could get in there and hammer them if I needed to, beat on them and whatnot. So the next step is I started setting up the frame rack, hooked the chain to it. I basically used about a 45 degree, I used a hook, hooked it in the end of the frame rail here, pulling it mostly forward, but at a slight angle. That way I could get the frame rail off the transmission, off the mount, try to get some of the smash out of it. The car has a lot of sway in the front, and luckily most of it all was in front of the engine mount and transmission mount, but the right frame rail has a major kink in it right in front of the transmission mount. Suspension's all nice and straight, didn't get into the subframe, so all that's nice. The holes, and there's some holes in the strut towers where my previous bars ripped through them, which is what it is, not the end of the world. Hindsight's 2020, but anyway, so pulled a lot of the smash out of it, swapping here to try to pull the sway out of it. The lower tie bar is still connected from side to side, so as I'm pulling the right rail, the left rail is coming as well. Towards the end of all these pulls, the tie bar starts separating from the right rail. So what I do is I end up cutting it, finishing the pull on the right rail, swapping to the left rail and pulling it separate. And obviously you got to stay clear of this chain, because if this chain were to disconnect, it's weird looking in this video, but I'm actually well off to the side enough that I wouldn't get hit by the chain. You gotta stay clear, because the chain would hurt if they hit you. And then obviously I'm beating on the rail to try to release the metal tension. When you got something bent, you try to release it, try to pull it back, correct it. You got to beat on it to try to release the tension. And it's a great stress reliever. You can just wallop the crap out of it, and calculating the moves. Like I said, I'm pulling the right rail way out. I'm going to wallop on it again to try to release the tension on the rail. The rail's already moved at this point quite a bit. Probably the tip of the rail's probably moved 8 inches from where it was. Because it was way over. Just beating the crap out of it.
Pulling that rail separate because it's tearing the tie bar, but that's fine, no big deal. I could damn near just save the rails. Like, I'm halfway considering it. Like, yeah.
Gotta beat on it, release the tension, try to release the metal. Get on a couple of different angles, a couple of different kinks, a couple of different spots. Try to release tension all the way around. Probably looking back, I probably should try to hit it from the bottom to release the tension out of the bottom. Would have helped some. I couldn't get to the inside. But I got the 2 major points, was the outside and the top. That was the hardest points that were hurt. Looking at the rails, and I'm gonna beat the other side and try to release some of the out of the driver's side rail. The original plan was to pull this as straight as I could, get the motor mounts in place, and cut the fronts of these rails off and tube them. I think after everything, we might be able to save it. Then in this video, this clip, I have cut the lower tie bar, I have chained and hooked around the driver's side rail, and I'm beginning to pull this driver's side rail. So the most important thing here is if you look in there, you can see the motor mount. I still use a factory style motor mount on these because in the reality, if the wall of this motor mount knew what it did and it was a solid mount, it would have broke the block instead of saved the block. Trying to release the tension again. Just wallop the crap out of it. I think one of the first things you can see the rail move even more. Just releasing the tension and allowing it to pull it the rest of the way. The motor mount at this point I think is really close to being straight. And then going to pull on it a little bit more now that the tension's released. Pull it inwards, pull. And then once you get to a certain point, you feel good about it. You always try to over pull a little bit and you release it because it's going to spring back. Metal's going to naturally spring back. Steel is at least. And then I zoomed in here. You can see the motor mount is pretty darn close. It's a little bit over. Now just give it a couple of little tugs. You can see the whole apron and everything. Pull it over. Beat on it. Try to release tension. That way it springs back less and that motor mount can be in the right spot.
Finishing up here. Got the motor mount on this side all lined up. The frame rail fairly straight and smush. We're going to end up stubbing it right there and building off that. This side is pretty close. I mean, it's still got a kink right there, but it's not the end of the world. We're going to decide if we're going to cut it there and stub it out with just a tube, or just cut the end of it off and plate it and do it there, because it's not the end of the world if it's kinked. It's not affecting suspension or anything. Got all that lined up. Got my shift linkage all bolted back up. New shifter and stuff because the wreck broke the old shifter. So yeah, gonna hammer and dolly on this fender some more. I got to get upper control arms. So my old upper stuff got hit by the bar, bent it, no big deal. It all held up. So yeah, coming along pretty close. If you look at it, it's it's not the worst. It's fairly somewhat straight now. Pretty happy with it.